Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news. And the Xbox Series X launch window just got a little bit better with a console exclusive releasing early on. And we even got some interesting details regarding a Series S game, so stay tuned for all of that. Also, Sony finally revealed some information regarding backwards compatibility, so stick around and I'll give you all of the latest on that situation. But first, let's go over some of the quick news, starting off with what I view as a remarkably good hidden gem, Supraland. So Supraland has been available on PC for over a year now, and it's actually a fantastic game that not many people know about. I do already own this game, and I'm telling you, it's a really good game. They kind of explain it as being a mix between Portal, Zelda, and Metroid, and there is some merit to that. It's a really good 3D Metroidvania style game that unfortunately has been overlooked. Well, luckily, it's now making its way to consoles and will release on October 22nd for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch. Here's the thing though, we've actually known about this game coming to consoles for some time now, and in fact, it was announced last year at XO19 to be coming to Xbox Game Pass eventually. So I'm thinking we may end up getting an official Xbox Game Pass announcement for this game sometime this month, unless something has changed. This would be a fantastic Game Pass game, but I'm just going to say this. Even if for whatever reason it doesn't come to Xbox Game Pass, it's very well worth the money, and I'd highly recommend it. Also, it's been a little over a month since the Avengers game launched, and this was a big AAA game, so there are a lot of expectations when it comes to big releases like this. The problem though is they're really struggling with this game and trying to find it an active user base. In fact, they just dipped below 1,000 concurrent users on Steam, and apparently it's causing problems for matchmaking. Yeah, that's not a good sign for a game that's only 1 month old. Really, this should be the time when it's most active, so there is definitely a problem here. I think one issue is that Square Enix really seems to have tried to push this into being a games as a service type game, rather than making it a single player experience or even a cooperative driven game. That alone isn't necessarily a deal breaker, but one issue that gamers have really had with this game is that they kept pushing exclusive content to different platforms. As an example, if you want to play as Spider-Man, you have to have the PlayStation version. Now, Spider-Man is probably the most popular Avenger, so that was a really big deal, and it kind of upset PC and Xbox fans. Well, since then, it seems like the game community has really turned on this game, and it's such an unfortunate thing. The Avengers is a big IP, and it has a lot of potential. I mean, if we look at the Spider-Man game on the PlayStation 4, that game was huge, and Avengers has that type of potential. It just seems like Square Enix really messed up here. With that said though, the Crystal Dynamics boss is confident players will return, but I think they're probably going to have to make some big changes here. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, unfortunately, we also got a delay to talk about, and this really has been a common theme all year long. It really shouldn't be surprising anymore, but Outriders is the most recent victim of a 2020 delay. Outriders is now being planned for February 2nd of 2021, which actually isn't that bad. It's not an extensive delay like we're seeing with some other games this year, but regardless, it does affect the launch of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. This was one of the bigger releases planned for next-generation consoles, and it's no longer going to hit that holiday period. Honestly though, I haven't really seen much buzz around this game. It is being developed by People Can Fly, which worked on Bulletstorm, and it was actually one of the first next-generation games announced, but it doesn't seem like there is a lot of excitement for this game. So I will ask you, is this a game you're excited for? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on, Skies of Arcadia popped up in the news. Yeah, I wish I could tell you that there is a new Skies of Arcadia in development, but don't get too excited because that currently is not the case. However, Kenji Haruta, who formerly worked on Skies of Arcadia for the Dreamcast, says that even though he knows fans want a remaster or a sequel, it's completely up to Sega. So that's actually both good and bad news. What I mean by that is that Kenji is acknowledging a remaster or sequel of this game, but it's also not currently being worked on from the sounds of it. That's a thing though, because earlier this year Sega was sending out this survey to where you can request Sega to bring back certain games, and one of those games that often popped up was Skies of Arcadia. Now, if you don't know what this game is, it's well known for being one of the all-time great JRPGs that was available on the Sega Dreamcast and later came to the GameCube. Since then, fans have been asking for a sequel, and right now more than ever, I think fans should let Sega know they want this game to return. Sega seems to be revisiting some of their older games, and with the Nintendo Switch, I think it's the perfect time to bring this game back. Maybe if we let them know enough, they might consider it. We were also talking about the Dreamcast Mini yesterday on the channel, and even if we don't get a remake per se, I am hoping at the very least to see Skies of Arcadia get bundled with the Dreamcast Mini if they do in fact make one. In other news, we have a couple Xbox Series launch games to talk about, one being the Falconeer, which I covered last week. It did originally sound like this was going to be an 8K resolution game based off an interview with a developer, but that no longer seems to be the case. They did reveal today what kind of performance this game will have, and it's still very impressive. As you can see here, it's going to run at 4K resolution and 60 frames per second, though you can choose to run it in performance mode, which will allow it to run at 120 frames per second. Yeah, if you have a TV that's capable of running 120 frames per second, you can do that right out of the gate with the launch of the Xbox Series X. What's interesting is the performance of the Xbox Series S. It will run 1800p at 60 frames per second or 1080 at 120. That's very impressive, but more importantly, it shows that the Series S is capable of running games higher than its marketed 1440p resolution. I think for the most part, it's still aimed to be a 1080p machine, but it does look like on some occasions, it will manage to go above 1440p, and it goes back to what I've been saying about this console. It's a very viable machine. The processor in this thing is amazing, and while it's clearly not as powerful as the Series X, it should be a good console for consumers who aren't looking to spend as much money. Xbox did reveal a big launch window game today though. The Medium is now officially going to be releasing this holiday on December 10th for the Xbox Series and the PC. Now, I don't usually like horror games, but I've been interested in this one for quite a while. I think it looks really intriguing, and it kind of reminds me of older Resident Evil games with that fixed camera angle. More so, what I think is exciting about this game is that they're trying to do something different here with having you play in 2 different dimensions at the same time. It just looks different than other games, and that's something we don't see very often anymore. Bloober Team is being really creative with the medium and even innovative. I think it has a lot of potential for cleverly made puzzles and gameplay elements, which makes it even more exciting for me personally. That's one thing I've always liked about the Resident Evil games, and how you're trying to solve these puzzles in this tense and morbid world, and I think that the medium has the potential of triggering those same exhilarating emotions. We'll have to see about that though, but what's cool is that the medium is actually launching right into Xbox Game Pass. That is the second game we've talked about for Xbox Game Pass today, but I think this is an interesting early generation title that you might want to pay attention to. It certainly has the potential, so they just need to execute here because again, the gameplay elements seem absolutely fascinating. Let's talk about PlayStation though, because we got a few things to go over here, including some store changes and backwards compatibility. Before I get into that though, I do want to put a little spotlight on the upcoming PlayStation 5 exclusive Sackboy A Big Adventure. They did post a new story trailer today for that game, and it looks absolutely fantastic. It's got that lovable charm that the Little Big Planet franchise is known for, and I think Little Big Planet fans should be excited for this one. It is a launch title, and I think it could end up being one of the better PlayStation 5 games this year. It may not be the most demanding game in the world in terms of graphics or anything like that, but if you like 3D platformers or Little Big Planet, I think this one could surprise quite a few people. If you haven't seen the trailer, go check it out. But regardless, let's get into some of the other stuff that's happening. Sony finally revealed some information on the PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility, and this has been a big topic pretty much all year, because Sony doesn't seem to be very forthcoming with this information. When they first announced it, it almost sounded like only 100 games were going to be backwards compatible, but without a doubt now, they have officially confirmed pretty much all games will work except for 10 games. And from what I'm seeing, nothing really too major is missing. The biggest one I saw that is missing is Shadow Complex Remastered, and that is a good Metroidvania style game, so I'm a little sad to see it's not going to work, but overall, most PlayStation 4 games will work with the PlayStation 5. This does include PlayStation VR games as well, so if you have a PlayStation VR headset, I'm happy to say that you will be able to continue to play that on the PlayStation 5. Though keep in mind you do need to use your current PlayStation 4 camera and not the PlayStation 5 camera. Also, for owners of the digital PlayStation 5, you obviously will need to own your games digitally in order to transfer your games. One thing I'm really interested in though is seeing how PlayStation 5 will improve games through backwards compatibility. This is something we're seeing Xbox really prioritize, and they're even able to add auto HDR, which has been having great impressions so far. Now, Sony is saying they have a boost mode which will work for select PlayStation 4 games and could increase unlocked frame rate or dynamic resolution, but they didn't really give any examples of what games will do that just yet. From the sounds of it though, games like Bloodborne will not go up to 60 frames per second because it's locked, but it'll probably have better load times at the very least and maybe more stable frame rates. Now, maybe games like this that have a locked frame rate can put out a patch to allow for higher frame rate, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Really though, I do hope we start to see a little bit more about this boost mode before the PlayStation 5 releases. I guess we still got a month left, so hopefully they show that rather soon. On to our last topic though, it appears Sony is going to be making some changes to the PlayStation Store. They're reportedly going to be launching a new PlayStation Store on the web and mobile later this month, which sounds like a good thing, especially with that mobile inclusion. But there is some changes that's being talked about that has fans rather concerned. Apparently, they will be removing access to purchase content for the PlayStation 3, Vita, and the PlayStation Portable. This also includes PlayStation 4 apps, themes, and avatars. This is what fans are really not happy about. It is important to note here though that this only affects the PlayStation Store on the web and mobile. You can still use the store on your PlayStation 3, Vita, or the PSP. That still is an option, and as of this moment, it doesn't look like they're axing those stores. It is an odd change though, and because some of these older stores are not that great, it's disappointing to see you can't use the web store where you can easily find games and make wish lists. Now, I might be remembering this wrong, but I believe some games are actually missing on the Vita store. I think it was Suikoden 2 that I couldn't find on the Vita store years ago, so I had to look it up on the web instead. I don't know how common that is, but that's something to keep in mind as well. You might want to go through your wish list and make sure you can get them on whatever device you want to. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.